Once, in the land of Small Dragon, a wealthy mandarin lived in a large mansion on top of a hill overlooking a peaceful river. The mandarin had only one daughter, and her face was as beautiful as lotus blossoms in pale moonlight that floated atop the river. The mandarin loved his daughter dearly and feared for her safety so much that all her life he had never allowed her to leave the mansion. She spent her days and nights in her room, high above the river, watching the world below. Servants brought her the most delicious dishes, and talented seamstresses sewed her the finest gowns of silk. Musicians and poets sang to her the ballads of old. But never had the beautiful girl walked barefoot on the dewy green grass, nor plucked ripe fruit from a tree, nor run along the banks of the river, flying kites and laughing like other children. The only sunlight that ever touched her fair skin was the few pale beams that peeked through the dappled shade in the walled-in courtyard. One day the mandarin's daughter sat beside her window, looking at the small boats and sampans gliding over the peaceful blue waters below. Some were loaded with fresh fruit from the mountains, others with bags of rice or baskets of fish, and some ferried passengers back and forth across the river. As she watched the activity below, one small gee caught her eye. The boatman stood up and skillfully steered the gee out into deeper water with a long bamboo pole. Then he sat down. He placed a bamboo flute to his lips, and soon the most haunting, beautiful melody the girl had ever heard drifted up to her window. It was the sound of rippling waters and cool breezes, of tall bamboo and the night bird's song, all woven together. She watched the boatman, and as she listened to the sweet notes rise and fall, she imagined how young, strong, and handsome he must be. All that day, the mandarin's daughter stayed beside the window until the sun began to set over the western mountain, and the boatman steered his gee away out of sight. That night, she dreamed of the strange melody and imagined herself stepping into the boat beside the young man, whose strong arms lifted her aboard with grace and ease. In her dream, they drifted along the peaceful river by the light of a full moon. The boatman explained to her all the strange and wonderful sights that unfolded before them. She experienced things that she had only heard about from the poets. The sweet touch of the cool river waters on her hands, trailing beside the boat. The gentle kiss of the night wind against her flushed cheeks, and the tingling fragrance of wild orchids hanging from trees in the nearby jungle. A smile flickered across her lips even as she slept. She dreamed of climbing out of the boat and running barefoot through the thick green grass and plucking wild berries that burst with a sour, tangy taste on her tongue. And when a green-eyed tiger roared deep in the jungle, the boatman held her tight. The girl awakened to the sound of a brass gong. Without even stopping to taste the tray of delicacies laid out before her by her devoted handmaiden, the mandarin's daughter walked to the window and looked below. Her heart beat faster when she spotted the little boat and heard the haunting music floating up to the window once again. All day she remained by the window until she knew the tunes he played by heart. Whenever the boat came close to the foot of the hill, she dropped flower petals, hoping the wind would carry them to the boatman. If ever he looked in her direction, she waved her long silk scarf. She became convinced that he played the tunes just for her.